Hello and welcome to Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys. My name is Hunter. In this podcast, I'll be joined by a different guest each week to discuss a classic Western movie or TV show. I've been a fan of classic Westerns for as long as I can remember, and in recent years, they've become very nostalgic for me. I love the aesthetic, the tropes, and I love seeing different filmmakers' takes on them. At their best, they're incredibly entertaining, rewatchable, and some of my all-time favorite movies are Westerns. We'll mostly focus on Western movies made in Hollywood, but we'll also be covering spaghetti Westerns, and one thing I'm very excited to get into are Western TV shows. I've got some amazing guests coming on the show, film professors, historians, and podcasters. And Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys is part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, and many guests on the show will be from other shows on the network. Thanks for listening.
We made this.
And I'm Chris Dashew.
And we are the hosts of the One Season Show, a podcast where we take a look at TV shows that only lasted one season.
Yeah, and each month we tackle several episodes of the show, depending on the length of the show. For Kitchen Confidential, we're talking about 3 episodes of the show per episode of our podcast. We are continuing, obviously, our look at Kitchen Confidential, a show that aired on Fox for like 3 episodes, and then it was canceled.
In the mediocre year of 2006.
Yeah, the year that was 2006.
Boy, what a terrible year that was. Yeah, right. At least for me personally. I don't know about you.
I don't remember 2006. I
mean, you were the same age, so you were 16. So I don't really remember that year specifically either, but I was 16, so I assume it was awful.
I do remember that year. The one thing I remember about my 16th birthday was that my sister ruined it. So
that's awesome. My cousin brought pot.
Oh, nice. Many moons ago, Chris of young age would be like, ew, pot. Now it's just like, what's up, my dude?
This was my adult cousin.
Oh, that's fine.
And I was like,
I'm not judging here.
No, it's awesome. I was just like a stupid, naive 16-year-old. And I was like, God, okay, never mind. No, I don't want that. But, what a stupid child I was. Yeah.
Naivete is fun. Our personal stories aside, on this episode of the One Season Show, we are talking about Kitchen Confidential episodes 5 through 7, aptly titled You Lose, I Win, Rabbit Test, and The Robbery. So,
Yup.
Yup. Dead air. What do we say? I don't know. Things. So, this is kind of where it becomes weird.
Been moving since 9 o'clock, but life is on the cutting block. Got face things, time to move. I've got to get my life into. Hey, yeah, look at my days, yeah. These are my ways, yeah. Ain't it insane?
This episode was never aired.
Right.
So we're essentially at the point now with the show where the only way you would have seen the show, these episodes, 5 through 13, was if you went out and purchased the show on DVD, which you still can, or if you caught it on Hulu, which I don't think you can anymore. It was on Hulu for quite a while. I think technically now it's owned by Disney, isn't it? This is a Fox property.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. Fox isn't owned by Disney yet.
Well, but the 20th century arm of Fox is.
Right.
Which this would have been created under.
So this just means that these episodes that we're about to talk about are for, like, the hardcore Kitchen Confidential fans who went out and bought the
exactly
DVD release in, like, what, 2008?
2007 or 2008? I think. It was 2007. I didn't buy it until, I guess I bought it in 2007. I don't know. See, here's the thing. I don't remember why I bought it, but I own it. And I watched it. I've seen it a million times at this point. I've seen it so many times. I was actually letting it go in the background while I was working on stuff this afternoon, and I pretty much watched the entire show again. So I've seen it more times than I can count, which is perfectly fine. But yeah, this is kind of the point where the show was, like we mentioned on the first episode when I spoke with Matt Winston, who plays a character in the 8th episode. So on our next episode, he was like, how did you even see that episode? The answer is on the DVD. So, but You Lose, I Win is the first episode we're talking about. It is directed by Victoria Hochberg. It's written by Stacey Traub. It stars one of the reoccurring characters, Becky, played by Erin Hayes, and another actress in the episode, another guest, is Melanie Paxton, who plays a obnoxious guest of Bonnie Somerville's character. But I'm curious, Jess, because you had some issue with the way female characters were treated in episode 4, as did I. Obviously, like I said, I can't defend episode 4. It's not great. What did you think finally getting to meet a character that a female character who's not just, as you put it, a pair of cleavage, I think is kind of what we were.
Right. Well, and it's not like the rest of the female characters there aren't still just sporting nothing but cleavage.
Fair. Yeah, I never said that was going to change immediately.
Right.
It gets better, but yeah, the other female characters, varying degrees of quality.
Right. So yeah, this episode, as an introduction to Becky, I liked. This episode is Jack hires on a female chef that he sort of puts above the other chefs in trust, which causes some riff and, general kitchen shenanigans. But I really like. I liked. Sorry, I'm totally spacing on her name right now.
Erin Hayes.
Yes. Erin Hayes. Yeah, I thought she was great. I liked her introduction. I think, she is, and I think that this episode, and we'll get to the next episode, are vastly different. But
in tone and subject matter, yeah.
Yeah, vastly different in how they're handling the subject of the new female character. And I mean, this episode was written by 2 women, and the next episode's written by 2 men. And when we get to that, it's going to be kind of apparent that that's the case. Now, I'm not saying that this
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
Episode is perfect, though, just because it's written by 2 women. I think that Becky, while is, a breath of fresh air and welcome on, I'm welcoming her onto the show. It's nice to see her character and to get to know that character. She's still a little bit of
she in and of herself is a caricature.
Yeah, she's an archetype. Yeah, she's a character. She's a character type, archetype, however you want to say it. She is that, no nonsense, rough and tumble lady who can keep up with the boys and conversation and all that. And it just feels so fake and forced, and I hate that.
But her character feels believable.
She does,
it seems forced. Yeah. It's forced and all that, and like you said, IP sitting down and all those kind of I don't
Amy
know.
Schumer kind of humor where it's very aren't I one of the guys? See, aren't I cool and one of the guys?
I believe she's one of the guys, though.
Right, yes.
Yeah, and
that's
to their
the
point,
actress.
Exactly. No, you're right. Erin Hayes does a good job of the first scene in the show of her, she pretty much dishes it right back to the main cast members, which I appreciate. And again, it sets the tone. And again, obviously, the mileage is going to vary with her character.
Right. But no, it was nice to see her. Now, I will say that she's kind of the only part of this episode that I enjoy.
It's not the dog?
God, no, and this kind of, and I'm seeing a little bit of a pattern here, and I think that, had this show had I been watching this show when it was on, which I was not even aware that it was a thing, but had I been, I think that I probably would have started to get a little tired of it, because it kind of just feels like if it's not about Jack and what he's doing right then, all the other like little kitchen shenanigans kind of just feel like filler. So the whole, cake versus fish thing that we're spending, a B plot on, it just, and with the dog, which is, another B plot, it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I guess they weren't funny enough to just be entertaining humor for me, and I just kind of was bored.
Yeah, I wonder if this is going to continue to be the case for you, because you seemed rather on board through the first 4 episodes. And I genuinely worry now that in the back half of the season you might become completely disillusioned and say, I don't like this show, stop making me watch.
I don't foresee it becoming that, because there are still I do enjoy this show as a whole. Like, there are enough parts in all 3 of these episodes that warrant me liking these episodes for the most part, but I think that it would just kind of fall in sitcom territory for me, where it would just be something that I have on in the background that I'm not like super invested in. I could see that happening. I'm not saying it's going to, but I could see that happening.
Right. Well, and
we do not know.
Well, yeah, right, exactly. But I will tell you, like, the stark contrast between the last episode and this one. It is
right.
Shocking. How much of a difference having like an actual female character that isn't just kind of used to drive the plot.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. It definitely has a better feel to it than the last episode. And like I said, the last episode is just, not good.
Yeah. Well.
But I find the candor between John Cho and Nicholas Brendan's character funny, but I think that they're probably 2 of the funnier characters on the show. So I didn't mind the cake versus fish thing maybe as much, but again, it also, I don't know, I've seen the show a million times, so that may have something to do with it.
Maybe, but I mean, it's also like, I don't know, it just, the posturing between the 2 of them, it just gets like, okay, I've seen this a million times. It's just,
I think the posturing is funny because like ultimately they're like, who gives a shit either way?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I think it's funny. It's because, like, guys, no one cares either way. And, like, I wish that someone had said something to that effect in the episode, because it does take itself a little self-serious, and there's no kind of like, blow-off. It ends up crossing paths with the dog plot line that, like, doesn't really matter.
Right, it's like, the dog doesn't even die from eating all the trash, which would have been, like, the standard sitcom move. It just,
It shits all over
presumably shits all over the car, but you don't, like, you see nothing. You hear, it's not even, you don't even hear the person in the car that clearly saying, like, oh no, it's the audio mix is kind of lower.
It's very lowered ADR. It's like, oh, snazzy. Like, whoa, like, what?
Right. But yeah, I don't know. And I mean, I like Nicholas Brendan and I like John Cho. I find it tedious because it's just the same stuff over. It's the same, like, okay, you're just doing this, and then next episode it's going to be something. And I don't know. I don't think that they sell the absurdity of it enough.
Right.
I think, like you said, it takes itself a little bit too self-serious. Like, it not that it's trying to take itself too self-seriously, it just doesn't let itself be absurd enough to be completely like, yeah, this is a pointless endeavor. Like, it's still kind of like, okay, I'm just watching 2 testosterone, like, bros, like, compare dicks half the time.
Considering Nicholas Brendan's character is, like, not, like, he's such a, like, he's a dick bro, but at the same time, like, he doesn't look like one.
No, not at all. But I mean, you didn't watch Buffy, but I'm also used to seeing him as Xander, so that's not at all that character. But it is just that, like, dick comparing, testosterone-y, posturing crap. I don't know. It gets boring for me. But I understand, why it's in the show and kind of like how it's playing up that, absurd sort of macho kitchen, just there is sort of this in the, and you're more you're more, I guess, into the cooking shows and things like that than I am, but in my experience of watching, like, the, people who are really take cooking very seriously, there is, like, a strong, like, kind of, like, machismo.
Well, there's a lot of ego
about it. Yeah, exactly.
And, there's one of the later episodes, Teddy Takes Off, actually, like, that whole episode is essentially about ego. And, like, what happens when your ego gets in the way of doing the right thing. And, I think that is the thing that the show does a good job of portraying, is these guys, all of them, except for I guess Jim, they all have like massive egos, and obviously the character of Jim is supposed to be the audience. So
well, and here's the thing, and I mean, even Jim, especially in the next episode, all these guys are kind of just terrible. Like if they were, like they're just awful, and they don't really appear like nobody really suffers any consequences. Like at the end of this, when Jack sabotages Becky's ribs because they're doing, much better, and it turns out, like he could possibly be upstaged by her. His ego takes over and he humiliates her in the kitchen, throwing her food away and like totally changing the menu, and she goes outside and like is, upset and telling him that she's just, like he is like the cook that she looks up to and she wants to be on that same level and blah, blah, blah. And they exchange stories, and he kind of like finds out that she did something very similar to him that he's just done to her. And so I guess we're just supposed to be like, okay, then that makes it fine, because he never admits to what he did. Like there is no like, oh yeah, I sabotaged your food. He just like gets to play it off.
Which for me, like, and this is something that you and I have talked about several times now, this show almost verges on like It's Always Sunny levels of like the characters are not good people.
And see, again, it's where
but they don't push it far
Sunny,
enough.
Exactly. It's Always Sunny embraces that absurdity to a higher level that I can be like, okay, yeah, all these people are awful, and this is funny because they're awful.
Right.
This show feels a little too grounded in reality for them to be that awful and to be getting away with the kind of stuff that they're getting away with.
Yeah, no, and like that's the thing. Like I feel like at times it wants to be grounded in reality, and then at other times it doesn't. And
yeah, it feels like a little uneven.
That's one of the things that I'm like coming to terms with rewatching the show with a more critical eye, is this idea that the show probably should have pushed it into a more unrealistic realm. Not like so unrealistic that like, oh, all of a sudden astronauts are showing up or something absurd. Not absurdity.
No, but
like,
these people are so awful. Like
right.
They don't commit to them being awful enough for them to be getting away with some of the stuff that they're getting away with. Like, because they want them all to have a heart. They all want to be the anti-hero with a heart, or like, the rough, I just, I can't help myself but break rules, but I'm still well-intentioned character, but that gets boring. And
but I don't mind that in a way, because the characters in this show I wouldn't mind hanging out with. I'm not sure I'd want to hang out with the characters from It's Always Sunny. Like
no.
Right, like these characters are still redeemable.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they would still annoy the shit out of me, though.
Well, I mean, that's you.
Like, in public.
That's you. I mean,
yeah,
you
yes, exactly.
Me. Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, like, my personality and your personality are going to affect how you interpret these characters.
Oh, yeah. And it's, it's a similar thing, because I like It's Always Sunny. I don't love it. There are some things I just don't work for me. But my husband has been rewatching Curb Your Enthusiasm, which I like parts of, but I can't fully commit. And that show also embraces the absurdity of things. But I think what my like main through line here is with like comedy of ego, like comedy of like obnoxious ego.
Well, it's like a boys' club, right?
Me.
I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot of that like toxic masculinity stuff going on.
Oh God, yeah. Like this show. This show does not kind of really hold up for 2020 in a lot of aspects. There are a lot of, like kind of like, no, I'm not gay kind of shit. And,
but the thing is, like, from what I can tell and from what I've read, that's kind of the way it is.
In the kitchens? I don't know.
Yeah.
I see,
I don't know, like, everything, a lot of things that I've read and, like, heard about and, like, through secondhand stories, like, that's the way it is.
Well, and I mean, like you said, there's a lot of toxic masculinity and ego, and it's all, like, we all like to watch Gordon Ramsay yell and scream at people, but that's really not healthy. Like, he's...
Oh, yeah, no, and
that
you
is
know what?
not...
I don't
That's not
like
behavior.
That.
Yeah. That's not behavior of a well-adjusted. Yeah, exactly. That's not behavior of a well-adjusted person. That is not behavior that you would tolerate in any other aspect of your life, and it's encouraged.
That show's a put on, and it's
of course
fake. Yeah,
of course.
That's like a character. Like, you know, Gordon Ramsay, the human being, is not like that at all.
Right, but I mean, there is that heightened, just sort of like, no, you need to do what the fuck I say. It is a little like military-y, I guess.
Yeah,
there's very much a hierarchy. There's very much a you need to, you know, depending on where you are in rank is how well you're treated by other people.
Well, and they say in one of the episodes that, you know, crap rolls downhill, you know,
right,
with the dinner date with death, where Jim is being harassed by friend of the show Frank Alvarez's Ramon character.
Right.
So, but you know, again, like, I think with a show like this, and obviously this is becoming kind of coming more to light the more we talk about it, your mileage is going to vary with the characters.
Yeah, on how much tolerance you have for
yeah, exactly,
the type of people they are.
Yeah, because they are all, for the most part, terrible people, but, you know, they're not, like we've been saying, they're not It's Always Sunny terrible, where, like, they're completely irredeemable pieces of shit.
Right.
Because, like, I love It's Always Sunny, but the characters in that show are completely irredeemable because of the things that they've done over the 13 seasons the show has been on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, the characters in this show, you know, like you said, they're kind of redeemable.
They were almost trying to kill that man, though.
That's true. But that's what but to be fair, that's what he wanted.
Yeah, but to be fair, any other rational, sane person would be like, absolutely not am I going to kill you with my food in my restaurant. Just the liability of anything.
But those people are real, and these people are on a sitcom.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. This is sitcom logic.
But again, it's sitcom that it has a little too much, like, soft, you know, like, soft spot, we're learning moral lessons here.
Yeah, no, again,
to be that absurd.
Yeah, no, again, it does. There are times when it finds the happy middle ground, but I think the times it finds the happy middle ground are fewer than the people who wrote the show would like to think.
And the fact that, you know, like, much like any TV show, the TV episodes are being written by different people. You know, probably the same core team, but they're being alternated. So whatever tone, if the writers aren't on the same page, or if they think they're on the same page, but they're not really, you're going to get episodes that are going to be driving more into the, like, Jack character arc, growing as a person storylines versus kitchen shenanigans, you know.
Right.
Episode.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of kitchen shenanigans,
let's talk about the next episode, The Rabbit Test.
Or Sexual Harassment, the episode.
Wow. So this episode is written by Joshua Sternin and J.R. Ventimiglia. They actually already have written an episode for the show, Dinner Date with Death, the episode that we've kind of already retouched on. This episode only stars one kind of guest, that is Lawrence DeMille, who plays a vegan. That Jack, you know, I just don't, whatever.
Yep, it's one of the many things in this episode that doesn't work or hold up well.
I mean, look, the thing is, though, the funny thing, everything that they're talking about with vegetarians in this book, that is the way Anthony Bourdain felt in real life.
Yeah, that's fine.
And he wrote about it in his book, so that is a complete, that's not a fabrication.
Like no, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the way a lot of chefs feel about vegetarians, and they will tell you that. And, you know, yeah, I have my own personal beliefs, and that's fine, and they're not for the podcast.
Exactly.
I don't want to get into a fight. But this episode has some problems.
Yeah, the veganism is the least of the problems. Honestly, my biggest problem with that is just, like, the whole, like, he feeds her meat one time, and that B plot is she comes to the restaurant, demands a vegan meal. Jack, of course, being Jack, manages to get her in bed and then to also eat meat. And then, of course, she gets sick from it because, obviously, if you go from an entirely vegan diet to eating a whole bunch of meat in one sitting, you're going to be sick.
Right.
So that's that whole plot. And at the end of it, he breaks up with her because she got sick and then wants to remain a vegan. And that's
kind of just goes nowhere.
Yeah, it doesn't, because the whole subplot is just making fun of vegans. Like, it's just one big joke. That's all it is. And that's, I am not vegan. I could never be vegan. I have friends who are. More power to them. I just find that being one long-running joke is not a funny one, really, to me. And it takes up so much time.
Well, and to be fair, look, like anything else, I am not religious. I am an atheist. But... And, I am a rather reserved atheist. I don't go and sit and spout my belief. Yeah. But like with being a vegetarian, there are vegetarians who are quiet about it and just go about it as part of their lives. And then there are people like this character in this episode.
Oh, for sure.
I have met them. I have friends whose girlfriends are like this. And it's just like everyone at the table goes, oh my God. And
right.
It's just like, Jesus Christ, like, we get it, you're a vegetarian or you're vegan, but I hate to break it to you, just as much as you don't care about the fact that I eat meat, I don't care about you being vegetarian, and no one does, but no one has the nerve to say that, and that's fine.
But here's the thing, Jack does care.
Well, that's the thing. But I'm not talking about in the episode. I'm talking about in real life.
Right.
The way that this works.
Oh, yeah. I mean, hey, if you have one specific part of your personality traits that, you live your whole life by, whether or not it's, being a vegan or being a runner or being like, a pothead or being whatever kind of subculture you identify in. If you're obnoxious about it and that's all you fucking talk about all the goddamn time, then yeah, people are going to be annoyed by it and they're going to think whatever you're into is stupid because you don't fucking shut up about it.
Exactly.
But in this episode, she is just as passionate about being a vegan as he is about her not being a vegan.
Right.
And the whole subplot is him changing her to, like, no, you have to eat meat. Like, you're fucking stupid if you don't.
Well, and the thing is, they could have actually approached it in a way that didn't feel as ham-fisted. They could have approached it as Jack's character, like, trying to figure out a way to change her mind, not just, like, bludgeoning her over the head with a piece of pizza, essentially.
And then if he actually learned, like, in the end of it, like, oh, I shouldn't, force my beliefs, onto her, or I shouldn't, be so critical of her. No, she gets sick because he convinces her to eat meat. And then he breaks up with her.
But to be fair, she does go and eat a bunch of meat on her own.
Well, yes, that's fine. Yeah. She totally, like, you make your bed, you lie in it. But
yeah, exactly.
Still, it's not a redeeming plot point. It's not a funny plot point. It's just, like, it shows that, yes, obviously you said Anthony Bourdain felt that way.
Just Google Anthony Bourdain vegetarian. It's like, he was passionate about his hatred of vegetarians.
And so they are either writing, like, more directly from the book in this episode, or that is true and the writers also kind of feel the same way. Because it just felt like it was really like, okay, guys, we get it. Jeez, like, you don't like it. It's cool. And I don't know. But that's not even the whole problem of this episode. The problem of this episode happens in the first fucking scene, when evidently, if you work at a fancy restaurant, there are locker rooms. I don't know if that's true or not. It seems like a weird thing. Okay.
Again, a lot of the stuff that happens in this episode, I have talked to friends who have worked in kitchens where this kind of shit happens.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, it doesn't surprise me, but again, it's like, I think the bigger issue is, right, and I think you would agree, a lot of this stuff just doesn't translate well.
No. Here's the thing. For me, this episode opens up, yes, they're in the locker rooms, all of them, they're changing into their chef's, outfits, and Becky is changing in them with all the men, and she takes off her, top and bra, and Jim, being Jim, is basically seeing boobs for the first time, and there's a line that like is sort of voiceover for Jack saying, in the kitchen there's no men, there's women, there's just chefs. And I can actually, that makes sense because it's the same kind of dynamic in I think really like when you're working in close quarters and you're working with each other all the time, because even when when I'm on the road for my job in video production and I am basically the only woman, like it is a Becky situation where I am just the only woman on most of our shoots, the small ones anyway. And it's, you just kind of talk about whatever. And you joke about whatever, and it's now obviously not to this extent. I would never, ever, just be walking around topless at work. That would be awful. But I get the sentiment of that. However, this entire episode is just about somebody sleeping with Becky at any cost.
Well, it's one character. Steven and Becky have like a romance thing. I don't know. She's clearly leading him on, and he's too stupid to realize it.
Yeah, and so they're doing all this tango shit in the kitchen, and like she's sending, flirty pictures and flirty messages, and she's saying, what she would do to him, and he's doing the same thing. And so they're heightening the sexual tension, but it's just, okay. Like, we have this interesting female character, and then the whole next episode is literally just about this guy trying to fuck her. And she's leading him on fine.
Right, exactly.
But that's not better. That just means that she's a female character written that way by men. Like, it's, oh, look, this conniving bitch. Like, this conniving, she's never going to sleep with you. But it's just, like you said, it does not translate well through TV, like, no. Especially now from 2006 to 2020. But also, the humor isn't. The humor's not as. The bigger
issue isn't the fact that Jack and Becky end up at the end of the episode.
Well, I hadn't got there yet.
We're getting there, okay? We're getting there, Chris. Don't you understand?
Jesus, Christopher. But I think that this show isn't smartly funny enough to be cheeky with the, her basically making a fool out of Steven.
Not at the times that it needs to be.
Exactly.
It needs to know when to either, and this is again going back to the last episode and kind of the show in general, it needs to know when to put its foot down on the gas. Mm-hmm. And when to completely take the foot off the gas.
Right.
Because when you don't have that build up and cool off and build up and cool off, and you're just constantly just in the center, which this episode, not so much the last episode, but this episode for sure, it's kind of like...
The whole 10 minutes of this episode is basically just like Steven and Becky have, back and forth about, who's making who hotter, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not, and it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't put its foot down. It's not obvious enough that she's, I don't mean obvious, I guess it's just not as cheeky and playful enough to notice that what she's doing. Because sometimes it's just kind of like, okay, are you into this? Sometimes it seems like it's being played like, oh, maybe she actually... Obviously, she's not going to, but they try to make it seem like she might. And then we get to the inevitable.
Which is, her and Jack.
They finally realized that, they can sleep together, because this whole thing started...
2 episodes, by the way. 2. They got to the end. That came about in 2 episodes.
Well, so here's I have this gripe for the whole show, but I grow so weary of Jack, sleeping with every woman he talks to.
It's very Star Trek, the original series-esque.
Yeah, but without the Star Trek part.
Well, that's right. But my point is, the main character
I'm watching people,
so
fight in a kitchen.
That every woman... Well, it's every female character in the show is just so enamored with him.
Right.
And, he's such a charm... Which, look, let's be honest here. Bradley Cooper is a charming guy.
Well, so, fine, but if Bradley Cooper came to talk to me, I'm not going to jump in bed with him. I would be very flattered that he came to talk to me at all, but I wouldn't also be like, yes, I'm also going to sleep with you, no problem. And let's be honest, he's not Bradley Cooper in the show. He's Jack Bourdain, which, he's still cute, but he's also, I guess he's a chef, but...
I mean, if he was like, hey, you want to come over to my place? I'd be like, yeah, sure.
If I weren't married, sure.
Yes, all things not equal. Yes. And it's like, hey, you want to come over to my place? I'm going to make you dinner and then, wine you and, all that. I'm just like, okay, sure.
Yeah, but I gotta say that at some point somebody's gonna just, go over for dinner and hang out and then say, see you later. It's unrealistic that Jack would sleep with everybody, and that's obviously like a very small... It's TV, so whatever. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't really matter. It's just I grow weary of watching it because it's always just the same thing. Like, it's never...
Right.
It's the same beats. Right. It's the same whatever. It feels like it's the same even, like, exact setup for the camera. It's just irritating.
Well, no, and, like, that's the thing, is it is played for laughs, and now it's been almost every episode has... I think, aside from...
Like, he slept with at least, like, 10 people in 7 episodes.
Well, so there was Becky in the last episode. There was also...
And the vegan lady.
Exactly.
Okay.
The episode before that was the French man's girlfriend. Mm-hmm. Before that, there was no one in Dinner Date with Death, but in the episode before that, Aftermath, it was the Audrey, the girl from, like, his previous life.
Right.
So that's like 4.
Yeah.
I think the problem is last episode was like too
Well, and then we see him flirt. Well, the thing is, he's also been on the floor for these last couple of episodes, so he's schmoozing. So he might not also be sleeping with every woman that he's schmoozing with, but every time you see him schmoozing, they're like, if he were like, okay, let's go, he would. So
it's true.
It's just, but
no, it's. I mean, even for me, it grows tiresome because I'm just like, guys, this like, we get it. Like, you don't have to do it 4 different times to get it. Like, we get it. He's a charming guy.
But he's so charming, he can get away with anything. Isn't he so cute? Yeah, okay, great, got it.
Yeah, no, and the universe, and I hate to break it to you, and I'm going to tell you now.
That doesn't stop?
No, it doesn't. But again, I mean, also, to be fair, we're halfway through the show. If you expected it to stop,
no, yeah. That's why I'm saying, like, it's a gripe that I just have for the show, like,
but
in
it
general
is
about the show. But yeah, it's frustrating. It's lazy, and it's only a 20-minute show, guys. Like, we can do a little more than this.
Yeah. So speaking of that, let's talk about the final episode of this episode. The Robbery.
Uh-huh.
So this episode is... Jeez. Just roast it. Roast it. This episode is directed by Fred Savage, written by Leslie Wake, and the guest star is Andrea Martin, who plays lesbian character?
Sure.
Question mark?
Because he said she is, so she is.
Well, I mean, this also makes it pretty clear, kind of.
Well, yeah, I guess, when she's trying to sleep with...
With everyone, including Jack Bourdain?
Yeah, see? So, yeah, I don't
know. So Nolita is robbed, and they can't
And you don't see any of it.
Right. And, exactly. But
they're robbed in the first scene, and then in the next scene, it's after the robbery.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the show doesn't need to show it, right?
No, it doesn't, but it's just like, okay, that could have been a moment for brief character development, but never mind.
I don't dislike this episode, but this episode feels tiresome.
You know what? I just watched it, and it's the one that I remember, like, the least. Like, it feels fully like a filler episode. Like, we were just like, and I don't know what we just need...
There's some good back and forth between Jim and Teddy.
Right.
When Jim supposedly saves Teddy's life by taking his watch off. And they have some good lines together. Namely, what is the one where it's like, you can have anything you want except for that and sex with me, not these 2 things. Like, I mean, it's like, there's the dialogue in this show is kind of always snappy.
Right.
Which I do appreciate.
When it's, when the right writers are writing it, and it's also, it helps that the talent in this show is pretty consistently good, even if some of them aren't really given much to do, they at least do well with it.
Right. I do find it funny though that apparently Becky's character is not around for this.
Right. Like, why? Just because it's...
This episode and the next episode she's not there, which again it feels odd because she's in the last episode for whatever reason, and then she's just not... I don't know. That's one of the issues I have with this show, like, overall, is, like, the character gets introduced, and then just kind of forgotten.
Well, I mean, given the episodes that I've seen her in and how I kind of feel about him in general, it maybe seems like the writers didn't know what to do with her.
Or it was filmed out of order.
Or that.
I honestly think that the order of these episodes is wrong. Like, because it's obviously coming off of the DVD, right? Mm-hmm. I, honest to God, believe it goes French fight and then the robbery and then you lose, I win.
Right.
Because, like, it makes more sense, I guess.
It would, yeah. Because, I mean, this, like, nothing in this episode that happened is really, like, consequential to...
And honestly, the next
anything
episode,
else.
Teddy Takes Off, probably takes place before these as well, because I would think that the episodes without her would have been before the ones where she all of a sudden shows up. And again, for me, that's the way I interpret it, because that makes more sense than, like, the character just disappearing, which she just does.
Since she's now ostensibly Jack's, go-to, right-hand lady, despite what he says to Steven. But it doesn't make sense that all of a sudden she's just gone and there's no explanation, especially when in the last episode in one of the opening scenes, or so in the one of these episodes in the opening scene, the host comes out and says, we're drowning because 2 people called off, and he basically says something to the equivalent of, like, what, are they dead? If they're not, fucking get them here, because that's how kitchen life is. So it doesn't make, just character-wise, it doesn't make sense that she'd just seemingly be absent and there'd be no reason for it, or he wouldn't be upset by it because she's wasting time. And now, of course, it's like, oh, they slept together, and then boom, they're not she's not in the next episode.
Yeah, no, I honestly think the episodes go what would be French fight, and then the robbery, or Teddy Takes Off. Teddy Takes Off, then the robbery, and then you lose, I win. Because if you lose, I win were later in the series, they actually would explain why her character leaves, as opposed to just her character being gone. And it seems like that's one of the glaring things about this show that I have never understood. And I think maybe it's because, once again, episodes 5 through 13 technically never got aired. So they put them in kind of whatever order they wanted. And in my mind, the order they put them in makes no sense. And I know that, like, this is, like, fucking quibbling over nothing of value.
No,
to
I mean,
anyone.
but that does.
But
make,
it makes sense.
It would make the flow of the show at least make it more consistent and make it feel not so like we just fucking don't care about Becky now for some reason. Like, we just introduced this character that's somebody who's actually interesting, or could be interesting as a character, and then you just. Not this episode. Maybe we'll get back to her at some point.
Well, and the funny thing is on IMDb, they have a different order for the episodes, even different from the one that I was talking about.
Oh, that's
they
weird.
have this episode, the first one we watched, You Lose, I Win, and then the rabbit test, and then Let's Do Brunch, which explains, spoilers, it explains what happens to the Becky character, and then it's Teddy Takes Off, the next episode we're watching, and then the robbery. So it does the same thing I'm talking about, which is explain why she leaves. And it feels like they needed to do something like that, because her absence is pronounced.
Oh, yeah. It is immediately, because I was watching this, and when I turned it on and halfway through, I was like, am I watching something out of order, or did I miss something? Or have I just not noticed that she's in this episode? But yeah, I know it's a bad call for whatever reason, for whether it's just that they just decided not to have her, or if it's because the episodes are ordered oddly. It doesn't work, and it feels weird, and it just makes this episode seem even more pointless than it already kind of seems.
Right. It might feel less pointless if it were in the spot that made sense.
Right, yeah, exactly. Because we'd be like, okay, we're still like in Jack's, we're just random shenanigan of the week episode.
Or we understand why she left.
Right, exactly.
Her absence isn't explained, and that's a failing of the show, because the show explains why she's not there later on. Yeah, later on. So, yeah, I think, honestly, probably the IMDb order it seems... It's even got dates on IMDb for these episodes airing, which I know they didn't, but maybe these were the way they were supposed to air, which, again, 3 episodes stand as a character, as a guest character, makes sense, and then you go back to the kind of nonsense of the week. So honestly, I may even go and change it, like the order, we can't do anything about it now, but like future
reorder these podcast episodes.
Well, like reordering it when I watch it the next time and see if it flows better, because honestly,
you're a fan at it.
Yeah. But honestly, nothing happens in this episode, like you said, that like would place it in any specific order.
Exactly. There's nothing to identify it. It's just there. It's just like, and here we are. Here's the thing that we did, and bye.
And honestly, like, we haven't even talked about the whole Models Night thing, which it just plays into a really, like, cheap stereotype.
Yeah, it's
I don't know how untrue the stereotype is. I'm not commenting on that, but like it feels cheap and like really lowbrow.
Yeah, I mean basically this episode is they get robbed at the end and then there's a headline in the paper, so it makes the restaurant less desirable to go to, so they have to start thinking of ways to get people in the restaurant, and that's sort of just the rest of the plot. And yeah,
there's a models night, and they're puking and eating, binging and purging, and they're all dumb. Like,
yeah, it's really gross. It's not.
It almost felt like as tone deaf and stupid as French Fight.
It did, yeah, and I mean there is a lot of that sprinkled throughout this show. Like there is just.
And to be fair, I don't like this episode almost as much as that one.
Right.
So, not as much, but it's a pretty. I mean, the whole thing with the models night just seems stupid. Like, yeah, I like really the bits in this episode where like they're trying to figure out ways to get people to come to the restaurant, and Jack is out on the street corner like trying to give people food. I think that part's pretty funny because it's like, well, you don't know what eats meat anymore. Well, you don't want some free food, and then he's talking to the hot dog vendor who shows back up. But yeah, it's just the later, like, kind of the last bit of this episode is really dumb. And it's what's kind of weird is there's like kind of like a little heartfelt back and forth between Bradley Cooper and Frank Langella kind of shoved in there, which is unfortunate.
In this episode, and I think, and in the last episode, especially in Rabbit Test, at the end of all these episodes, it's kind of like, you get your voiceover narration from Jack, expounding on the lesson that he learned in this particular episode. And in these last two, like that being in there, like in Rabbit Test, the monologue being over, and then in this one with Frank Langella and him, it feels cheap. Like it doesn't, because those episodes were so not good and so not warranting of him learning a lesson, that he's just, it feels like, oh yeah, and also we have to tack this on because Jack's growing as a character, I guess, but he's not really, at least not in these two episodes, he's not.
Yeah, no, it's oddly sandwiched in there between two scenes that are really stupid. And I didn't like it.
Nope.
And it's unfortunate that they couldn't have put it in a better episode. So speaking of episodes, what are we talking about on the next episode of the One Season Show?
Next episode, we are going to be talking about episodes 8, 9, and 10. We are very near the end of this season.
Yeah, we're one episode away after the next one. So it's the next episode and then one more and then we're done. But yeah, like we've been kind of mentioning, the next 3 episodes, at least 2 of them could have been swapped in an order and it made more sense. So
or omitted entirely. That's always an option.
Wow. The next 3 episodes, 2 of the 3, I think the next episode, Teddy Takes Off, is pretty funny. Let's Do Brunch is the episode that kind of addresses where Becky's character goes. And then Praise Be Praise, I genuinely don't know what you're going to think of it. I think it turns kind of what you have been talking about a little bit on its head in a way that, like, I don't know if you're like the whole Jack Bourdain sleeping with everyone thing. It kind of turns it on itself, but like it doesn't. We'll see. I don't want to spoil it. But until then, where can people find you, Jess?
You can find me on Twitter at writer Jess Byard, and you can also find me on Instagram at Practiced Amateur, where I do some digital art and all that kind of fun shit. And you can find me on a lot of your podcasts, Chris. You can find me twice a month on the Culture Cast, talking about a myriad of things that are hopefully maybe better than Bugsy Malone.
How dare you? How dare you? Taking pot shots for no reason. How dare you?
And yeah, you can also find me on the previous season of this show. If you didn't catch up with that, we talked about Fox's 1987 Werewolf.
And for all the problems we're having with this show is still better.
It is, yes. It's fundamentally a better show.
It's fundamentally much more well written too,
and well shot. Yeah, it's just overall it is better. But where can they find you, Chris?
They can find me over on Twitter at casualty_Chris. They can find the podcast on Twitter at One Season Show. I have a Patreon for the Culture Cast, but if you want to donate to that, it goes here too. It's kind of all in the same bag. We're all in the same boat.
It's your Patreon page for your network, Chris.
Yeah, exactly.
Your podcast network.
So here's the thing. We're on another network, though, with this podcast.
It's a network within a network.
Network within a network. Network networking. And those episodes of those shows, Jess has been on some episodes of the Pick a Disc podcast, one of them, and I have been on an episode of the Pick a Disc podcast as well. Go check those out. I was also on an episode of the Without a Mouse podcast, where I sat for about 2.5 hours and talked about a Disney movie that I guarantee you've never heard of called Meet the Deedles. It is on Disney Plus, and you should go check that episode out. But got to give a shout out to the rest of our network as well. You can find this podcast, those podcasts on all podcatchers, iOS, Android, Spotify, Google Music, all the places you look for podcasts. We're on there. And big thanks to our new music that we're using for this season of the show. That song is called It's Voodoo by Ash Nino. So it's a little bit of a change from the last song, but it's still catchy, and it's still, you can fast forward through it in 45 seconds if you want to just listen to us talk. And make sure to catch us on the next episode.
Previously on the We Made This Network. We buy records.
Paul, listeners of our last episode will recall that you've been on your holidays, and it was such an odyssey that it couldn't possibly fit into one episode, could it?
No. Last week's City Report was from Los Angeles. We also headed to a couple of other places, and this week we are going to have a short City Report on San Diego.
Now, does this contain one of the things that you teased last week of being even better than...
It does.
Okay.
But where we're going to start is Feel It Records, which is...
Feel It.
Feel It. Feel It. Records.
What's the it?
I don't know. That's what it's called. Been there twice
now. You didn't think to ask?
No. Well, I didn't. But we are going to have a little interview with the owner, Mark Allen, which we can hear now.
Pick up a podcast.
Overall, over the past year, what has been your kind of primary thing that surprised you the most within any of the films that you've seen, or any kind of like stories or things that you recognise that would be interesting for people to hear?
Chris and I have just reviewed a film which was oh my god, what's his name? David Lynch's
short story.
Straight Story, yeah.
Straight Story, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very generic title, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we've reviewed the David Lynch Disney film, which I had no idea before Chris picked it that there was ever a crossover of that calibre.
Fast, Furious, and a bottle of Corona.
Each week, when we talk about each Fast and Furious movie, we're not just going to talk, ad nauseum for the whole, an hour or something. We're going to both bring 3 things to the table that we've taken from that particular film. So the first film, I'm sure there'll be a lot of nostalgia for this classic film from 2001. We'll be talking about how the series has changed. Might even talk about things like the Vin Diesel and The Rock feud and all that type of stuff. We may even get into supporting films and stuff. What are you looking forward to about this, Wes?
Well, it would be nice to sort of see through a sort of a jaundiced lens, because I'm against this sort of whole corporate branding monster. But
check out all of these shows on the We Made This Podcast Network.